After being grounded for much of the pandemic, North Country Honor Flight is hoping to resume a full schedule of flights this spring and fall. Paying tribute to more than 100 veterans with trips to Washington, D.C. so the veterans can visit the national memorials built in their honor. Mary Finnegan is the director of North Country Honor Flight, and former Assemblywoman Janet Dupree is the director of operations. Welcome to you both. It is so good to see you.
Thank you very much, Tom.
After a couple of challenging years with COVID and no flights in 2020 and then 4 flights last year in 2021, you're gearing up now for a full year of honor flights in 2022, beginning next weekend.
It feels great to be a full slate again. We've got so many people on a waiting list to go that we're very concerned with that. It's probably our primary concern is getting as many veterans down there as quickly as possible. Due to age, illness, it's something we need to do. So to get a full slate in this year, we're pushing our volunteers a little bit. It's a lot of work and it's a big undertaking, but we think we can pull it off. And to get that many veterans down there, to get 120 veterans down to Washington is going to be a great feat, and it's going to relieve our waiting lists tremendously. So we're excited about the year. A lot of work to do, but it's going to be a great year.
You're doing 8 flights. Have you ever done 8 flights before?
No.
So that's the challenge.
No. The most we've ever done is 5.
And part of it is the urgency. Because of COVID, you had to put everything on hold for a year and a half. And as you mentioned, you have veterans that you want to get on these flights because they're getting up there in age, and
right.
You want to get them down to see their memorials.
Yeah, the COVID break really hurt us at an inopportune time, but we're back at it, and I think getting this many down there is going to help us a lot.
Do you have quite a backlog of veterans waiting?
The list as of sometime last week was 174.
Do World War II veterans go to the top of the list? Do they get the priority?
Correct. Yes.
And yep. Korean War.
And Korean War.
The Korean guys are only 5 years behind the World War II guys. So, age-wise, there's only about that 5-year difference. So most of them are pushing 90, if not into their 90s.
And that's why they're the priority.
Correct.
They've always really been your priority since this started. World War II veterans first, that was really the purpose was to get them first and foremost to the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. to see that, and then as Honor Flight went on, you then had veterans from other wars that you flew as well.
Correct. That's what, the World War II is what got it going. That was the basis when they founded Honor Flight. And in fact, yesterday they had their celebration down at the World War II Memorial of 250,000 veterans have been sent on Honor Flights on the 130 hubs across the country.
That's incredible.
So that's a huge number and a great celebration for a great accomplishment. That's a lot of veterans.
And you folks have been such a huge part of that yourself. You've sent 35 flights now.
Correct.
And more than 500 veterans to Washington, D.C.
Yep, 525. That's for this little area, and we're smaller in numbers than a lot of the hubs across the country, but that's also a good plus for us. We can do a lot of things that the bigger guys can't.
Most of these veterans, have they not been to visit the World War II Memorial and many of the other memorials there?
Very few have gone down to Washington, D.C. to see them. Once in a while, somebody will say they were there 20 years ago, but very seldom have we had anybody who's gone. And something that I think we haven't emphasized enough, and we do absolutely, World War II and Korean War are our priority, and a serious illness. But a lot of Vietnam veterans are just hanging back. Last year we took an entire flight of strictly Vietnam veterans. We have a lot of Vietnam veterans signed up. In fact, they're the majority of our waiting list right now. Mm-hmm. We try and get them, and we have some who've been on for a long time. We're trying to get those a part of each one of our flights right now. But for somebody who served in Vietnam, who was part of the Vietnam era, we really want to encourage them to come forward and get their names on the list and get acquainted with us, let us get acquainted with them so that when the time comes, they're ready.
We know that obviously Vietnam was different, and there was,
Absolutely.
they were treated differently when they came home. Many have been reluctant really to participate in public events. You're hoping that you can convince a number of them to be part of Honor Flight.
It's a great day. I mean, and for many of them who were reluctant to go, they said it was a very healing day. They come back saying, I think almost to every single one of them, as they step off that bus at the Oval in the evening, say, one of the best days of their life.
For a number of years now, it's been getting the World War II veterans to the World War II Memorial in Iwo Jima and Arlington National Cemetery. For the Vietnam veterans, is it important to get them to the Vietnam Wall?
Yeah, and everybody goes to the wall. You know, it's difficult. I've had some of them say to me, I'm not going to be able to hold it together. Well, I've been there a lot, and I still don't hold it together. I look at my brother-in-law's name on that wall, and it's tough. But yet there is a healing part of it that I think that we need to emphasize.
So there's an urgency now that you're seeing with a number of Vietnam veterans as far as their health to get them there while you can.
We didn't realize the implications from Agent Orange were so rampant in so many people. Very few that you run into that were in Vietnam that don't have some kind of ailment from Agent Orange.
The Vietnam veterans, have the majority of them been to the wall, or for a number of them, would this still be their first visit there?
I think it's still usually their first time.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more have been down to see it. And again, we always emphasize, you haven't seen it like this. You know, when you get the crowds of people that are welcoming them into the memorial, and the send-off here is such a great event, and even the welcome home. The welcome home is starting to gain some steam, and we're getting some good crowds. So they might have been to the wall, but not like this.
And again, the opportunity usually to go with a family member. And for the first time this year, on our May flight, we have sons of 4 veterans coming in from Seattle, Washington, Texas, Florida, and Canada.
To accompany
in Chicago. So we've got 5
to accompany their
dads.
Their dads to Washington.
To Washington. They're flying in locally to meet their dads and go down the entire trip with them. And I thought, this is what Honor Flight is all about. It really, truly is. That to me is just as I started clicking off a fellow from Florida called me and said, is there any chance I live in Florida? Can I come up and go with my dad? Yeah, you bet.
How special of a day is that for family members to be able to take their dad or their mom
or their daughter?
To
it's
to these
you know,
memorials.
sometimes it's the people get it right off the bat. They understand the importance of this and how big a deal it really is, especially to that veteran. And those work out well because they're kind of prepared for just how big and emotional, and the whole thing is just from start to finish. It's pretty much nonstop. It's a long, tiring day, but every veteran that comes back, like Janice said, is possibly one of the best days of their lives. Just the crowds that meet those people, and complete strangers stop in their tracks to applaud and thank them. And I think this year we'll be back to shaking hands.
You mentioned the size of the crowds for the send-off have grown over the years, and it is so wonderful to see hundreds and hundreds of people turning out for the send-off bright and early on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock on the Oval. Has that gotten bigger than you ever imagined it could be?
By far, by far. We of course we started at the airport terminal,
right?
And then we went into the center, the recreation center, and we certainly outgrew that.
And people of all ages. Amazing to see the number of kids at that event, the number of kids who are now part of the Honor Flight and raising money to send the veterans, to pay for the flights.
We just finished one. The kids at Keysville Elementary raffled off a hockey puck signed by Jim Craig and raised $3,821. So it's just amazing. The kids at Beedmantown, 7th graders, have done a wonderful job twice now, huge amounts.
The money raised has now allowed you to use charter flights. For a while, you were using the commercial service out of Plattsburgh, but was it last year was the first time? Or
Last year. It's a better format for the way we run our day. Far more expensive. With 8 flights especially, we were a little concerned. We're okay. With 8 flights being probably the max that we'll ever do, we get through this year, we'll be okay. The people of the North Country are so generous, and whenever we ask, people step up. So we're kind of not worried about the fundraising part. It'll take its own course. We've got a lot of people planning some bigger fundraisers, so we'll be okay. But the expense is far more than when we had SkyWest. We were doing some of those flights for under $10,000, and now we're up to $25,000 per plane.
really $25,000 for each of the flights, so $50,000 for each of the days when you send 2 of them. So.
Correct.
Fundraising is critical.
It is.
It is absolutely critical. And again, Barry's right. A lot of people out there are stepping up.
The send-off for the first 2 flights of 2022 will take place next Saturday, May 14th at 7 a.m., bright and early, here on the U.S. Oval of the former Plattsburgh Air Force Base. And if you'd like to watch more of our interview with Barry and Janet, you can go to our website at mountainlake.org.